This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat. So in this chapter, Izuku goes completely feral against Shigaraki in an attempt to end the fight once and for all by essentially force-feeding him one for all, or at least an aspect of it. And I'll get into exactly what is going on with that, but in the previous chapter we saw that Izuku was adapting to fighting against Shigaraki without the use of his danger sense quirk that was taken by Shigaraki. We also saw at the end of that chapter, Star and Stripe somehow came out of nowhere in the All for One vestige world, but also somehow in All Might's consciousness, pointing out that there is a void inside of Shigaraki that is containing the former essence of his original Tenko self. Now that All for One is gone, you know, the one who was originally holding Tenko back, it is now Shigaraki himself doing it. And it turns out that there's, like I said, some kind of fragment, or as they refer to it as in this chapter, an ember of Star and Stripe left out there in the All for One / One for All vestige universe, and is able to see a fragment that was broken in this debris Chibaku Tensei thing that Shigaraki has made to hold back his former child self in Tenko Shimura. And like I said, All Might is able to see this, which is wild because technically he should have no trace of One for All left at this point. He used it all of his quote-unquote embers, as that was also referred to, in using the United States of Smash against All for One way back in Season 3. And also, aside from that, Star and Stripe should be gone completely as well, since her tangible form was killed by Shigaraki with decay, but also as he took her quirk from her, her quirk vestige was also killed in the All for One vestige world. But somehow, as it says here, the will of heroism was inherited, and there's still an ember of her in this world, and somehow the quirk Wi-Fi is connecting to All Might and Shigaraki. To be honest, in my opinion, this is just Horikoshi trying to make up for straight up wasting Star and Stripe, in my opinion. I think he realized that he fumbled such a great character, and he's trying to make the most use of her without seeming like it was, like I said, wasted. So it has to be like, yeah, she still has importance, guys. She's still doing stuff. Because her importance here is apparently that the damage that she did to Shigaraki / All for One, or the All for One quirk itself, when she was like rebelling against it within the All for One vestige world, formed a wound inside of his mind, consciousness, as they say, a mental wound, and he can't regenerate this like he would his flesh. It can't be repaired with quirks, apparently. So this is like the last ray of hope, showing that there is still an element of Tenko within Shigaraki, and this is how Izuku essentially wants to defeat Shigaraki, by saving him, by bringing out the innocent Tenko Shimura within him. Now, how is he going to do that? I don't know. I mean, I talked about this a lot before. We saw it in I think it was like the intro to Season 6, where Shigaraki just dissolves and then Tenko like comes out of him. And a great way of practically doing this within the realistic rules of the My Hero universe would simply just be Eri using her rewind quirk on Shigaraki and then just turning him back into Tenko. But how do we get from point A to point B with that? I don't know. They bring Eri out onto the ground zero apocalyptic battlefield, which seems unlikely. So I guess Izuku is just going to be able to do some kind of Deus Ex quirkery in the last few chapters here, possibly. But maybe there's another way that they do it, and I'll get more into that. But aside from that, we're finding out what the second user's plan is for defeating Shigaraki, because he insinuated at the end of the previous chapter that he wanted Izuku to let go of One for All. And we were speculating, like, what does that mean? Is he just going to give him the entire quirk factor and just let him have at it, and then maybe they're going to fight him from the inside? And yes and no. The second user's plan is to give him just a portion of One for All, like a part of the quirk factor. Because we saw, previously that Shigaraki was able to take a single quirk from One for All, such as Danger Sense, the fourth user. And when he took that, he essentially fully assimilated it and was able to use Danger Sense without any drawbacks. And that has them worried, such as the sixth user N here, who is like protesting to the second user's plan of giving himself to Shigaraki. But the more that he goes into the plan, I really like it, and it does make sense, but it also feels like Horikoshi is cheating and breaking his own rules, and I'll get into that. But the plan here is that since Izuku has been using Gear Shift for like the last year and a half in real time in the story, or at least for us, but in the story, I don't know, it's been like 15 minutes or something. Since he's been using it that long, it's now having the recoil effect on him. You know, Gear Shift, he uses it on himself and amplifies all of the cells in his body individually. So now he's like an ultra super saiyan, and he can just defy the laws of physics essentially. Like in that incredible sequence that he had last year against All For One / Shigaraki. One of my favorite, if not my most favorite sequence in this entire final war. But that came with a price, and it is this recoil that Izuku is experiencing where he can't really move anymore. He can barely even breathe, and he's holding himself together by using the 5th user's Black Whip quirk. However, there is a way to stop this and get around it. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Tokyo Treat. Tokyo Treat is a monthly pop Japanese snack subscription box where you'll get up to 20 of the latest, most exclusive, limited edition, and seasonal flavored Japanese snacks that are only available in Japan for a limited time, like Sakura Pepsi, Japanese sake Kit Kats, ramen, and many more. It also comes with this awesome booklet that gives you information on all of the snacks in the box, as well as information about Japan and its culture. This month's box is Be My Valentine. Love is in the air this Valentine's Day. Tokyo Treat has packed their favorite treats into the Be My Valentine box to celebrate and show appreciation. Indulge in delicious snacks filled with love. This month's box is filled with favorite treats to celebrate Valentine's Day, with strawberry shortcake Kit Kat, Pokemon candy hearts, Pirikara spicy ramen, and many more. First, I tried the Cutie Pie donuts. I love these things so much, and you can't really get them in America. They have like this interestingly hard yet soft texture to them, and such like a nice subtle sweetness, along with like a maple syrupy type flavor. Next, I tried the Caramucho spicy chili tomato chips. Again, there's really nothing that I can get like this in America. These chips are so savory and have like a nice little umami flavor to them. And then last but not least, you have to try the special Kit Kats that we always get with the Tokyo Treat box. And this month is strawberry shortcake. I'm a big fan of strawberry shortcake in general, so fusing them with Kit Kats is essentially the ultimate. And these things are just too decadent. You really need to get these for yourself or your loved one. And speaking of that, this month's Tokyo Treat box is the perfect Valentine's Day gift. You can get yours by going to the link in the description and make sure you use code Zhoniin for $5 off your first box. Thanks, guys. So the second user wants to give the gear shift aspect of the One For All quirk factor to Shigaraki forcibly. And if he does that, in theory, Izuku will no longer feel the recoil of Gear Shift since he will no longer have that quirk factor. But if he gives it to Shigaraki, then Shigaraki himself will suffer from the recoil. And that is very cool, and I like it. But like I said, it just feels like this is like cheating. I don't really think this is how it would have worked a couple years ago if Horikoshi was writing this sequence. It just seems like he's kind of bending the rules and changing it so that he can make this sequence more exciting, I suppose. And this is like a nitpick. I totally get it. But that's just how I feel about this. It ultimately doesn't really matter because it is Horikoshi's story and he can do whatever he wants. But like I said, I just don't feel like this would have been the case a couple years ago. It seems like the rules of quirk exchanging have altered. But still pretty cool, and I'm on board with it anyway. And the second user is positing all of this because he says, after absorbing All For One's consciousness, Shigaraki became too strong. As you are now, referring to Izuku, you're no match for him. That's why we have to attack from the inside. And that's just cap. Izuku proved that he is more than enough match for him. Like, he could have killed him multiple times in this fight, but he's choosing not to. It's like the second user is kind of like creating a false narrative here just so he can be the one who saves the day. Like I pointed it out in my previous review that Izuku can just pop Shigaraki's head at any second. Like he has more than enough power to be able to do that, but you know, Izuku is like the golden MC. He can't murder, even like the end-all be-all apocalyptic villain here. He has to save him via, I don't know, pulling Tenko out of him in some way. So this is a way that Izuku can have his cake and eat it too, along with the vestiges. Force feed Shigaraki the gear shift element of the quirk factor from One For All so that he will, in theory, like I said, feel the recoil from gear shift the way that Izuku is right now, and he won't be able to move as well. I mean, I'm sure he could still do something. I'm sure he has some kind of quirk that will allow him to puppeteer himself the way that Izuku is with Black Whip. But also, the second user will be able to fight Shigaraki from within him, like in the All for One Vestige world. And I think that's really cool because we haven't really seen these Vestiges fight before. I mean, we've seen them do things here and there in the flashbacks, but we've never seen like an extended fight with them or how they fight or what they do. And I think this is a great way for Horikoshi to finally give them all like their one last moment, because they have been here fighting with Izuku, just, you know, behind Izuku's mental wall in the One for All Vestige world. And I just don't think it's going to be that simple, of course. It can't just end there. It's like, oh yeah, just the second user gets transferred to him, and he's the one who fights Shigaraki when in the Mind All for One Vestige world, and then everyone else just chills back and watches. It's like, no. I think one by one, all of the Vestiges are going to go into Shigaraki, into the All for One Quirk Factor Vestige world, and they're all going to eventually fight him. And I say that because, I mean, it just seems logical, but also Nana Shimura, the seventh user, she is Shigaraki's grandmother. And Tenko, as a child, really admired her, but he was chastised by his father because she kind of abandoned Shigaraki's father because she didn't want him to be a target of All for One. And he just turned into a big piece of crap, you know, easily the worst character in the series. We all hate him. All my homies hate Shigaraki's dad. And of course, he is large in part the reason why Shigaraki became the way that he is, aside from All for One, you know, doing the grooming that he did. But that would be a great way for Shigaraki to finally have his moment with Nana, and for a way for all of the other Vestiges to be able to fight against Shigaraki in this one big final battle, and aside from just Izuku doing it. And then I guess that will ultimately leave Izuku with just the base power stockpiler / quirk transfer aspect of what One for All is, like the base of it, before Banjo came out and revealed that you're going to get all of the quirks from the previous users of it, you know, when times were much simpler. So I think that's how the next couple chapters are going to play out here, but coming into the end of the chapter, we see that that is what Izuku is going to do. He's gearing up to force feed Shigaraki the second user's quirk, and he goes completely feral. Like, he looks like even more villainous than he did during the quote-unquote Dark Deku arc. Like, he has his shirt off, and he has the Black Whip tendrils coming out of him. His fingers are now claw-like, and Shigaraki is even, like, noticing it. And he's like, wow, looking at you, I never guessed you're a hero. And how is he going to force feed the One for All quirk factor to him, or at least the second user's gear shift aspect of it? I think it would be pretty cool if he like stabs him with one of the Black Whip tendrils and then like transfers it that way, because I guess you just need to have them ingest your DNA, and we do know that One for All can forcibly be given. It's not like you have to just be like, yes, I accept this. It's like, no, you must accept it. So I think he can either do that, or he's going to stab him with his hand or something, because we see this glimmer of light on Izuku's hand in the very final panel of the chapter. And that could be signifying that he is going to do it that way, because he does have blood on his hands, right? And that is DNA. So expect that to happen. I'm really looking forward to seeing the next couple of fights within the Vestige world here, with the previous users of One for All taking on Shigaraki within, but also breaking through that barrier, that Chibaku Tensei of lead that he made to suppress Tenko. They're going to be excavating through that to pull little Tenko out of there. And it's like, even if you pull him out of there, it's like, what happens? Does he just take over Shigaraki's consciousness and then he's in Shigaraki's body? Not really sure. I mean, we will find out in the next couple chapters, I suppose, but let me know what you think about this one in the comments. And if you liked the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.